just want to take you through the agenda, program item. We'll have an opening session, and please, can I have, please, I'm holding your hand. Thank you, Flex. We will have a welcoming remark from Mr. Paul Osei Kufu, Network Coordinator, WADEMOS, and an opening remark by Said Mati Jao, the Executive Director of Center for Research and Policy Development. Then from there, after the opening session, we will have a panel discussion or presentations by WADEMOS on the WADEMOS intervention on time limit by Marie, is it Marie Josenga, project coordinator WADEMOS. Then we will have our own product, citizens' contribution to the standardization of time limits and democratic reforms in the Gambia. The former president of the Gambia Bar Association and a very prominent lawyer, civil society actor, and the chair of the Gambia participates. Then
board member CPM.
CRP. Yeah, he's a board member too. Hey, a lot of caps. And the founder of Gambia Gambia has decided. Co-founder. So I can go on now. He's called the Papa Young Boy, huh? But he's not an uncle.
No.
He's not an uncle, but a brother. Even though he's uncle to some of us. So yeah. So we will have a conversation around the discussions. Then we will allow participants to also ask questions and then make clarifications. Then we will have conclusions and closing remarks by Mr. Paul. Then we have Sid Mati again. Then the end of the meeting. So we're hoping that the meeting will end at 12 noon. So now I will want to invite the dignitaries on the high table who will be joining us in the on the high table rather to we go straight forward to the opening session, and this is live stream, right? So it's live on Askanwi, huh? YouTube and Facebook, Askanwi Media Live. Yeah, thank you. So I would like to invite Mr. Paul. Please join me to welcome Mr. Paul by a round of applause, please. Mr. Paul, you're welcome to Akwaba, to Gambia.
Thank you.
We said Dalal Jam, wala Dalal si Jam. And then we have Mr. Sid Matijao, Chief Consultant. You're welcome. Oh, we have to invite someone to make it balanced. Please, can you join us on the high table?
What's her name?
Mari. Mari, yes. No, we cannot afford to. We are talking about time limits and other things. All right, thank you very much for this very important meeting. It's going to be a very short one. As I said earlier, I would like to welcome you all to this very important gathering. We all know that time limit is a very important conversation. And the Gambia, obviously, we're yearning to have time limit. It was inserted in our 1997 constitution, but unconstitutionally removed from that constitution. But still the debate is on. And we are looking forward to a very important reform agenda. In 2020, we had a draft, very robust draft constitution. We could not pass, through parliament to referendum. And now we have another chance, which is the 2024 draft, executive draft. They call it the Barrow Papers. Some are calling it Barrow Papers, some are calling it whatever names they feel like to. But I think it's a very important conversation to have this in charting the way forward, because we don't have time limit, and people are questioning whether our president should go for the third term. But their argument is there is no legal provision that is, stopping the president. And people are saying moral, but who cares about moral in politics? So this is the conversation. So we're hoping to have very important, critical conversation on this. On that note, I would like to invite Mr. Paul Ose Kufu, the network coordinator, WADEMOS, to give a very important welcoming remarks and some statement about the purpose of the gathering. So anyone who is covering, you can put your gadgets here so that we can have it. Yeah, please welcome Mr. Paul.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, and a very good morning to everyone. I recognize the presence of senior colleagues from civil society, colleagues from media, and all other participants gathered here this morning. I send to you greetings from the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, which is the host and secretariat of the West Africa Democracy Solidarity Network. We have been in Gambia for almost a week now, for the past couple of days, and we are here for three main purposes. We came for the African Commission on Human and People's Rights session, that's the 81st session, where through the WADEMOS network and in collaboration and partnership with RFLD, gender-based and human rights focused organizations, we presented a statement at the session. We also have a report, a human rights defenders report, that look at the situation of human rights defenders in West Africa. And we did organize a session at the meeting of the commission, just to raise awareness on the state and condition of human rights defenders in West Africa. And we are at the third event, which is a solidarity engagement on our term limit campaign. So we are happy that all our events have run very successful, and we are at the end of our mission. And we thank you for responding to this invitation. And I want to welcome you on behalf of our focal person in Gambia for responding to this invitation. Having said that, permit me to say something briefly about WADEMOS. I'm beginning to see a lot of known faces, so I'll be very brief about why WADEMOS. WADEMOS is a platform or a network, a solidarity network, comprising over 35 civil society organizations. And WADEMOS came to being having observed the deterioration and the decline that we're experiencing with democracy in West Africa over the past decade, especially in 2020 when we witnessed the resurgence of unconstitutional changes of governments in West Africa. And as we stand at the moment, we have 4 countries that are managing political transitions in West Africa. Civil society organizations became very concerned and alarmed about the situation. And as community citizens, we felt that we need to break the silos and identify common effort to help push back this rise in authoritarianism that was gaining grounds at the time. So in terms of our programs, as civil society organizations, we work regionally, where we mobilize as civic actors to engage ECOWAS. So as part of the reason why we are here, it follows our engagement at the regional level, especially with ECOWAS, where we are working on a term limit campaign and review of the ECOWAS protocol. We also work around elections, where we seek to promote the integrity of elections and ensure that electoral processes are inclusive and transparent. We've done this over the years since our establishment. We've engaged in pre-election and election day solidarity meeting and engagement in Nigeria, in Sierra Leone, in Liberia, and this year in Senegal. We also work strongly on human rights, and that is what brought us to deliver a statement at the 81st session of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. On our human rights desk, we have a human rights documentation, where we monitor threats to human rights situations and violations of human rights, with a special focus on human rights defenders and activists. So I will entreat you, my colleague managing the desk is here. We can all share our contacts. So if you come across any aspects of your work that brings you into sharp contrast with state authorities, we are there as a solidarity network to work with national actors to provide some kind of protection and support for activists, defenders, including the media. Currently, we also have a working group that is supporting the political transitions in Mali, Burkina, Guinea, and and the last one, Niger. So these 4 countries are currently under military rule, and as part of the process, they have a transition charter. So under WADEMOS, what we do is that we have created a learning and experience sharing platform for civil society, so that the transition processes will be inclusive and will engage civil society in the processes as well. So in a nutshell, this is what WADEMOS has been involving as a sub-regional network. In terms of our approach, we have our annual CSO convening, which is held on a yearly basis to explore the challenges and threats to democracy and to re-strategize, reimagine, and rethink our approaches as a network. I've also mentioned the term limit campaign that brought us here this morning. That is ongoing at the regional level, and we need to connect also at national level, especially in countries where term limit is not inserted or is not a provision in their constitution, or in countries where term limit has been manipulated through a reset of the constitutions, as we witnessed in Cote d'Ivoire, and the recent also happenings in Togo, where the entire governance architecture has been reconfigured, and with the intention to elongate office for the current regime. So I want to thank you very much for responding to our invitation. As I said, today's event marks the end or the closing engagements here in Banjul. I want to commend specifically my brother, Sey, for facilitating this session for us. I'm happy, and the expectation is that by the end of this meeting, we will identify common grounds that collectively we can champion to ensure that term limit becomes a reality in the Republic of Gambia. So far, we've met with the Ministry of Justice yesterday and the Foreign Affairs Ministry. There's been some very resounding positive assurance that the new constitution, which has been gazetted, will be processed and will be submitted to the legislator for final discussion, validation, and approval. But as civil society, we need to remain resilient and very strong in these processes so that we can have a collective voice and make sure that we get the process concluded. I thank you for the opportunity on behalf of WADEMOS, all our network members dotted across the 15 countries of ECOWAS, our steering committee comprising 11 organizations, very regional in character. I want to welcome you and to wish you a very productive engagement and conversation this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That one is very low. Can you give him a round of applause, please? Thank you. He spoke about very important things and what they have done in the African continent in engaging politicians, relevant authorities to strengthen democracy, human rights, and defend human rights in the continent. So, which is a very important quest. Thank you, sir, for that great remark. Now I will invite the consultant himself, Honorable Save Matijaw. Please kindly allow Save Matijaw.
Thank you. This president guy would always like to call me consultant, but he's the big boss in this country because he's the head of all the journalists. And you can imagine that. But thank you so much. Please allow me to welcome my colleagues from WADEMOS, Paul, MJ, and the entire colleagues, and also we don't know how to call him, but we just call him Uncle Sal, our big brother, because I think today if civil society is really ready and taking the steps that it has been taking, it is thanks to people like Sal and the colleagues of uncles that we have. But we really appreciate him. He's always present everywhere. So my duty today would be really short. I just want to welcome and thank WADEMOS basically for coming. They could have only stopped at the African Commission present paper, but within this period, they also wanted to engage with us because the reason why at CRPD we joined WADEMOS was also to look at the solidarity within the regional level. We all know what happened here in 2016 and how regional solidarity was basically needed in helping bring about the peace and stability that we wanted in our country, especially ensuring that there was a smooth transition. And so therefore, as things continue and as we are seeing some of the changes that are happening within the sub-region, I think as a small country, but also as a country that is still also transitioning, it is important that we get connected to this regional network so that the issues that we are doing could be amplified at that level. So we really appreciate the time and also this important meeting. And I think today's discussion is also very timely for us because as right now, as we are talking, there are people at Gambia participate at a different hotel at Metsi. They're talking about the constitutional process. And we are here also talking about the issue of term limit, which I think, as Paul was mentioning, if taken together, these are important conversations that need to be carried out. So for us, I think if we go back a little in history, looking at 2016, we saw how ending self-perpetuating rule was the major driving force for the change that we brought about. And given our history, 30 years of President Jawara, 20 years of Jame, and now the issue of term limit is becoming more crucial when we see data, Afrobarometer data showing almost 9 out of 10 Gambians saying that their country should introduce term limit. And I think these are things that are very critical. And today's conversation basically is to not only to introduce you to WADEMOS, but also to elicit this kind of conversation and how can we, within our own context in Gambia, make sure what we are trying to drive at the regional level is also successful. So on that note, I will really want to say a big thank you to all of you for coming. And I hope that in the next 1 hour, we'll be able to have conversations that will definitely help drive that collective action, but also to continuously support the agenda for constitutional reform, but ensuring that there is time limit. So thank you, and looking forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, senior man, senior consultant. Salban Madam. 11? 13. Well, then we need to have the first conversation. Yeah, we need them. So thank you very much. So we will have a quick one. We're supposed to have a group photo. We will skip that. Then we have the first panel discussion because probably what we can do, we allow you to have that conversation with the people. Then when we have a break, then after we can allow you to discuss with the participants. Yeah. So thank you. Now I will allow the high tables to, yeah, please. Then we will invite our brother, Salim, Honorable Salim Tal, if I can call you Honorable, to, yeah, David, on citizens' contributions to standardization of time limits and democratic reforms in the Gambia. So we will probably allow you to, before 11, maybe you can, yeah, so that you can have time. So, yeah, you want to start now? Yeah. You can use the podium. Yeah, yeah, guy.
Well, then people will see.
Yeah, maybe let me move the podium for him.
Good morning to all distinguished participants. Akwaba to my people from Ghana. I hope you have brought some kenke and some shito. You're welcome to the Smiling Coast. And you know, I thank you, my brother and teacher. In my other life, I would have been, in fact, I wanted to read political science, and but I accidentally became a lawyer, a reluctant lawyer. And actually, I did my master's in international relations. So, say to somebody I would call at 5:30 in the morning discussing international politics and all kinds of weird theories of politics. And I'm really happy to be here in the midst of friends and colleagues. Before I even get into the main menu of the day, I will take this opportunity to call on the government of the Gambia to drop all charges in the criminal courts against the two Gambian journalists. I'm calling on the government of the Gambia. Yesterday we celebrated International Access to Information Day, I believe. Yeah. The whole of Africa has descended to Gambia to discuss the African Charter. But today, in today's Gambia, two journalists have been charged in the criminal courts and also being sued in the civil courts for simply saying that, writing a story that alleges that the incumbent has an anointed successor. It is rather unfortunate that a citizen, or anybody for that matter, particularly journalists who are the purveyors of information, can be charged, detained, and also taken to court, civil court. So I'm really calling on the government to really drop the charges in the criminal court. And of course, I'm calling on the president personally to be magnanimous and discontinue the civil suit against these two journalists. And I'm calling on all you journalists and all right activists to make this their business. The freedom of expression is the cornerstone of all rights. We cannot be in our nice, cozy, air-conditioned rooms talking about African Charter, talking about access to information, talking about Constitution. When, as we speak today in this Gambia, our colleagues have to worry about paying legal fees to fight a multi-million dollars lawsuit and risk going to jail for an obnoxious colonial act that makes it criminal to publish a story that may not be true. So I'm calling on the government to really particularly the president, to use his powers and authority rather, to drop the charges, to get the IGP to drop the charges and to discontinue the civil suit. Now I'll get into the menu proper. I am asked to speak on citizens' contributions to the standardization of term limits and democratic reforms in the Gambia. One would ask, on what authority am I here to speak? I'm speaking here not as a lawyer. I'm not speaking here not as an expert like Sid. I'm speaking here as a citizen who has the lived experience of initiating a movement together with like-minded Gambians that played a very significant role in bringing about change. So I have experience with my colleagues of being able to mobilize and catalyze change through citizen participation, citizen engagement. In fact, Saint Matthew is one of the people who was part of that group. So it is very clear that citizens, when they come together and harness their power, they can be very impactful. Not only can they be impactful in bringing about meaningful democratic change, they can also be impactful in deciding the kind of democracy they want. Because democracy belongs to the citizens. If you look at the Constitution, sovereign power resides in the people. Those words carry a lot of meaning and import, and we should not pay lip service to it. So the kind of Gambia we want, the kind of West Africa we want, the kind of Africa we want, should be decided by the citizens. Yes, we have Parliament or National Assembly, we have the judiciary, we have the executive. But all those institutions or arms of government derive their power and authority from the citizens. Unfortunately, in Africa, there's a disconnect between the citizens and those who exercise power on their behalf. Afrobarometer has intimacy. I think in Gambia, only 3 out of 10 trust their representatives. I don't know the data from other African countries. But generally, citizens elect their leaders, and once they get into power, so it is important. And part of it, if you unpack this, you ask why? Why can't citizens don't like what's happening? Why can't they change, bring about change? The political structure in place is designed in a way that political parties will decide how the country is run or governed. And those political parties, be they the ones in power, be they the one in opposition, usually capture the state. Usually are detached from those they're supposed to serve. That's why if you look at the data also, if you look at the poll, the political parties are not trusted by the citizen, whether it's those in power or those in opposition. So how do we citizens now harness our power? And when I say harness our power, I'm speaking using our power democratically, peacefully. I'm not talking about an upheaval. I'm not talking about destabilizing country. I'm talking about how we can use our power to have the change we want within the rules. I think if you look at, for example, Gambia, the opinion polls from Afrobarometer, despite the discontent of citizens with the system, citizens still prefer democratic way of government. So let me make it clear. In as much as we want citizens to be empowered, we want those powers to be exercised within the confines and ambit of the law. The challenge is current laws we have limit the ability of the citizens to bring about the change. So the challenge is how do we now influence these laws? How do we influence a constitution? The constitution that we want as citizens. How do we influence laws that are citizen friendly? One of the challenges we have in Africa, particularly in West Africa, is self-perpetuation in power. And Gambia is no exception. President Jawara, may his soul rest in peace, served for 30 years. And because he overstayed, amongst other things, a bunch of young guys who came and told us they were soldiers with a difference, removed Jawara unconstitutionally in 1994. That is not to mention that in 1981 there was an attempt, there was a bloody coup that attempted to remove Jawara that failed. In 1994, the so-called soldiers with a difference told Gambia it's a dream that it's time to change, it's time to bring the young people, time to build the Gambia we want, that we all part of, the Gambia that is not only Banjul but from here to Koina. 22 years down the line, we all know what happened. We had a very draconian system, a system that weaponized laws, and a system that was on paper democratic, a system that had a National Assembly, that had a court, had an executive, but a system where torture was normalized. Enforced disappearance was normalized. There was hardly civil society then. The players there, I mean, in those days, I mean, Sid Mati got arrested, locked up for doing a poll, opinion poll. I remember we had a campaign for him. We went to, did you go to Mile 2? Exactly. He went to the hotel Mile 2 for simply putting a question about what people thought about the government. And that question did not even end up making it in the poll. It was removed. You put it there as an academic to ask the question, are you guys happy with your government? Something like that. And he was advised to remove it. But the fact that it was there before is why this guy went to Mile 2. He's fighting Hejufi. Let's remember what happened in this country. This guy went to Mile 2. Mile 2 that you pass. This guy sitting here. Many people were tortured, jailed. The citizens were tired. They couldn't do us. We're going to have a new constitution. We're going to make sure we fight corruption. We're going to make sure that we will change this constitution, which was used by the former real leader and amended over 50 times to make sure that he has all the powers he needs to be a dictator. So that constitution gave the powers, the president at the time, so much power that the notion of separation of power was just academic. But in real terms, I mean, ultimate power was really vested in him. So the idea of the citizen being sovereign was just academic, because at the end of the day, the executive, which is personified by the president, has all the power. And what allowed him to do this? If I just take you to history, a little back to history, when the former regime, when they came into power as military, and they changed their attire, now started wearing warambas and became civilian. They had a constitutional building process, and they consulted Gambians. Gambians wanted 2-term limits, agreed to have a 2-term limits, but it never found its way into the constitution. Said Mati, as a historian, a political scientist, I will task you to get that document published. The recommendation that was given had a term limit clause. Today, if that term limit clause was actually in the 1993 constitution, many Gambians would not have died. So let's remember that. So fast forward today. We are in 2024. We are using the same 1997 Constitution. In 2024, we are using the same Criminal Code and Criminal Procedure Act. In 1994, we are still using the same Public Order Act. The Public Order Act that was used against Solo Sending, who lost his life. The Public Order Act that was used to beat up women in this country. The same criminal procedure, criminal offenses, criminal procedure, the criminal laws that were used to lock up, beat people for just broadcasting a meeting via Skype in this country. People have been locked up for that. For your information, those laws are still in our books, and they are likely to stay in our books because the current amendment in National Assembly has maintained those laws, despite the fact that the ECOWAS court has said that these laws have no place in a democracy and are consistent with the African Charter. We are a signatory of the African Charter. African Charter is the legal framework for ECOWAS. We're a member of ECOWAS, member of AU. So, term limits, we don't have it in 97. I think it's one of the reasons why the 2020 draft failed, because the 2020 draft had a clause that said that for the first time introduce a term limit and put a caveat that says for the purpose of defining 2 terms, when it comes to the incumbent, his existing term will count towards the term limit. Obviously, those on that term saw it as discrimination. I don't want to go into those arguments. And others saw it as saying any president, including the incumbent, can have 2 terms. I think that was the reason why the draft constitution was rejected. Constitution that was presented by the incumbent, by the Attorney General Dara Jallow, who's serving the incumbent, they brought their constitution, did not defend it, their members voted against it. That's why we're here. Let's speak the facts. This is nothing to do with politics. These are facts. Today, that constitution, constitution bill, which was product of extensive consultations, wide stakeholder consultation, has now been brought back by this government. But this time around, only the executive has gone into the constitution and make their changes. At least the bar association was not consulted. I can speak for the bar. And the civil society space I sit at are not consulted. These are facts. So what is in the draft bill, we only saw it when it was gazetted. And if you look at that, it sort of restored a lot of powers back to the executive and has a time limit clause, which is good, introducing a time limit without no provision for retroactivity. That's fine. That's basically what it is. What is the current situation? So it means that if that becomes law, is passed, the current president will can serve another 2 terms. So just like Jawara and Jammeh, he will serve more than 2 decades. Which is where the law stands right now. And it's obviously, the constitution building is a political and legal question. I mean, a constitution is what the people want to be their foundation law. So if that's what government wants, that's okay. That's fine. You make your bed, you lie in it. No problem. But we as technocrats, we explain to you the import of your decisions. We look at the sub-region. ECOWAS is in disarray. 3 members have left ECOWAS, and we have a crisis in this region, in the Sahel and other places. We have serious issues when it comes to unconstitutional change of government, to the extent that the ECOWAS heads of state want to set up a standby force to be going and fighting and firefighting like they did in one of the Sierra Leone is here, Guinea-Bissau is here. But that's not the solution. It's not about firefighting. Make sure that it doesn't catch fire. Before you put out the fire, make sure you make it fireproof. How do you make it fireproof? Build a democracy where people see themselves in it. And ECOWAS has woefully failed in this, just like our countries have woefully failed in this endeavor. So we as civil society, we should come together. ECOWAS is working for us. ECOWAS community, the salaries is paid by levy from all these countries. Who pays the levies is through our taxpayers' money. So they are working for us. Our respective governments are working for us. Do we have any leverage in ECOWAS? No, not yet. ECOWAS is designed in a way where even the commission just does all the technical work. The parliament is just a debating chamber, has no legislative power. The presidents are the authority of heads of state government. They decide. And I'm sorry, they tend to have vested interest. You watch my back, I watch your back. I'm sorry. When Macky Sall was misbehaving in Senegal, we all saw it. What did ECOWAS do? They couldn't even issue half-hearted statements. They will say something very moderate and warn people about people who are protesting. Protests don't destroy the country. The same thing in Sierra Leone, when there was an attempted coup and the military where Madiba was heavy-handed. What did ECOWAS do? So we as civil society should really tell ECOWAS that they exist because of us. If it's an ECOWAS of community of citizens, we should now make all ECOWAS understand that the power resides in us. So when it comes to time limits, the supplementary protocol on good governance, there was a proposed amendment to introduce the time limits across ECOWAS. And in the past, when it was rejected, I can't remember what year it was. Guess who voted against it? Gambia, during Jammeh era. I think Togo, and I think Cote d'Ivoire, I'm not sure. It came back recently. Gambia, of course, voted in favor, which is great, because our target is different. Togo, Senegal, this time, and I think somebody else voted for it. So I think it's a shame that we don't have the normative framework in ECOWAS that makes two-term limits this gold standard. So ECOWAS don't have the legitimacy to tell President Barrow about 2 terms, because ECOWAS itself is not setting a good example so far, up to today. So we, as civil society of West Africa, should come together and put pressure at the domestic level that we demand 2 terms. I mean, Senegal has 2 terms. Sierra Leone has 2 terms. Ghana has 2 terms. Togo has 2 terms. Cote d'Ivoire has 2 terms. Benin has 2 terms. Only Gambia. These are facts. Facts. So Gambia, the beacon of hope, of democracy, good governance, and new kid on the block, is the only country that doesn't have 2 terms. And it's not only about having 2 terms. It's also about what kind of 2 terms do you have. Because you have to unpack it. Why do we need 2 terms? Because we don't want anybody to overstay. So, like my friend has said, when Cote d'Ivoire did it, it was like a reset. You reset, make 2 terms, and now if you look at what's happening in Togo, so sometimes you can have 2 terms, but you are also, that 2 terms actually entrenching you in power. So we should have these honest discussions, and our political leaders should know that it's not personal. The government doesn't belong to anybody. The state will outlive every leader. Today, Macky Sall is crying about laws that he created, that he used to weaponize his opponents, that he's saying now is being used against him today as we speak. Macky Sall. That's why he's now back and take the list, because he wants to protect, he wants to fight. But when he had the chance to, before he came to power, he said he would change the laws that WADA used against him. or against them. He didn't change the laws. When he came in, he said, wow, these laws are good for me. The same thing in Gambia. The laws that this government agreed to change, the 2 terms and others, they still have not changed it. We still have a constitution bill, which I think is very, very, in my opinion, is a very self-serving constitution, because we all sat together, civil society, interest groups, terms of government, all made our contributions, even religious leaders, and the independent body that was vested with the power to decide what should be in it or not in line with defined principles, took some and left some out. Now, the ones that were left out for the executive have now been recycled back into the draft. So maybe also the ones they left out for the bar, we also wanted back. The youths also wanted back. The women also should get their stuff back, because the constitution does not belong to the executive. It doesn't belong to the judiciary. It doesn't belong to the legislature. It belongs to the people. They are just serving us, and we need to remind them. Yes, we want term limits. I think it would be unfortunate to go to the next election without term limits. But I think it's important that civil society have a very strong common voice and remind our leaders where we came from, the pact that they had with the citizens. We're not talking about winning or losing elections. We're talking about building a country that will be here for posterity. Constitutions last generations and generations. Constitution is not about legislating for one group of people or one interest, but it's about the collective interest of the citizens. So this is where civil society is important, because civil society, for all intents and purposes, we are independent group of citizens who are closer to the citizen, who help amplify the voice of the citizen, who advocate for the citizen, who give a voice to the citizen. That's what civil society does. I love the fact that we're talking about consolidating civil society. Gambia succeeded in 2016 because of this, partly because of the solidarity we enjoyed. When the Bar Association issued a statement telling former president that he must hand over power on or before the 19th, failing which he would be committing treason, it had a cascading effect in the country. Not only that, our colleagues from Pan-African Lawyers Union lend us their voice, which meant that we have the Union of African Lawyers amplifying the voice of the Gambians. We have the likes of Femi Falana speaking to this issue. We have Landry from Siraj. We did a lot of work with West African civil society. These are a lot of facts that people don't know. We have newspapers in Nigeria carrying our stories. Sahara News, Premium Times, The Punch. A lot of work was done in this country by many unsung heroes. And all this is documented. Even the reason why those judges didn't come to this country, because of extensive civil society work, advocacy, the bar and civil society. And it shows you the power of civil society, where I can sit here and get Boniface Mwanga from Kenya, who has 1 million followers, to tweet about something in Gambia. Where I can sit here and get Hamza. I can sit here and get the guy from Sudan. That's solidarity. I can sit here and give solidarity to my brother from Ghana with what's happening in Ghana. So we need to synergize our efforts, both locally and regionally, so that not only is the pressure coming locally, but regionally. So if there's a problem in Ghana, we should be able to rally and support Ghana. Suicide Gambia should be able to say, we are going to lend our hand to our brothers in Ghana. Just like when we had a problem in Gambia. Some of us, when Senegal had a problem, in our own little ways, we lent our hands to Senegal to this, all these movements you're seeing. It may not be in the, I will tell you that for a fact. So that you can know that today. We didn't sit down and say, oh, it's Senegal's problem. Some of us did what we need to do to support our Senegalese brothers. Flagdan knows about this. Because Senegal's problem is our problem. When we had a problem, they supported us. Some of us actually had to go on exile and live in Senegal because our lives were in danger. Some of us were harbored in Senegal. So when Senegal has a problem, it's not about Pastef or anything. It's about supporting, especially on the election issue. We supported them. Even to the extent that when they were launching the report with Africa Jom, we launched it in the Gambia here with Aliou Tin. In here, I was the co-host with Fat Jan Senghor in this Gambia because it was not okay for them to launch it in Senegal, cataloging the violations. So collaboration is important. I think we have a template, and I think the creation of WADEMOS really is brilliant because there's no in West Africa. I think WADEMOS is the most credible suicide platform when it comes to, the quality of work you do, the consistency, and we need to strengthen WADEMOS work, collaborate. We need to be able to generate our reports locally so that we have every country very detailed reports about what's happening. So that today, WADEMOS, I don't know whether you should a statement on this journalist issue, but ordinarily that should happen. That should happen. It's in line with your mandate, right? So I think citizens in Gambia have really contributed immensely in bringing about change, and citizens have contributed immensely in not only the design of the governance architecture, peace architecture, and treaty architecture. TRRC, citizens played a huge role in that, in the design, and in its when it was being operationalized, and also in its implementation. Today, the reason I'm rushing is when I leave this meeting, I'm going to the National Assembly because I'm part of the ECOWAS Gambia Technical Committee. I'm meeting ECOWAS parliamentarians on the proposed special court. And that court is the work of the Bar Association, civil society, victims, and the government. That's the people. So Gambia, we have example. We just celebrated, yesterday I was with MS on access to information. The access to information led by GPU and civil society, from conception, drafting of the law, the funding, the roadmap, everything. You put it on a platter, give it to the government. Today we have an access to information law. And not only do we stop there, we have a stakeholder, what's it called again? Forum, where we sit and recommend those who should be on the commission. And I would be unfair if I don't also acknowledge the fact that if the government was not accommodated, this would not be possible. So really, in as much as we hold our government accountable, I travel in the sub-region, and I think Gambia today in West Africa, we are the most promising democracy. I sit in fora with bar presidents all over West Africa, Commonwealth. I tell them, as a bar president, I have access to everybody when I was bar president. When there's a problem, I can engage the highest office, and many can, and we are at the table, even if we don't agree. So Gambia is really a model. And I think WADEMOS 2 is a model. So I would say that we continue to, this campaign for, term limit campaign, you can count me as one of your ambassadors. Gambia will be, honestly. Because it's beyond Gambia, you see. Change, when you have these undercurrents of instability, it affects everybody. You might think it doesn't affect Gambia. But what happens in Gambia affects Senegal. What happens in Senegal affects Gambia? Sierra Leone, Ghana, Guinea. Our borders these are colonial structures. So we need to build sustainable peace. We have to have good governance across the board. So I think I've been talking too much, and really on that note, I have to leave you because I have another engagement. And I'm really, really grateful to Sid Mati and WADEMOS, and let's continue engagement. Thank you very much. I will, yes.
Okay, maybe we can have one or two questions.
Can I take sitting down?
Or comments?
Can I take it sitting down? Or
yeah, it's okay. You can sit. Okay. Yeah, one or two, then we can go. Okay. Please start.
Okay. It's devastating that at this moment it's very hard to say anything about government and about democracy. Like journalists are now being targeted. So it's um, I want to hear from you, Dr. Tal, like what will be your appeal in that, because it's going to be very hard now to speak. Anything you say, they say is false information. And we have an obligation as journalists to work on stories. And some of this information that people are saying, they are not false information. These are information which are true, but because it does not favor government or someone else, and they go to court. We've seen that a lot of cases are being brought against the journalists. So that's frightening. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we take
Okay,
another-
I'll just come. I'll just come there.
Okay.
I'll just do it.
Go.
I'll just do it. First of all, as a journalist, you should not be frightened.
I agree.
Like starting point. You were not frightened when Yajami was here. I mean, my friend here, he knows. Huh? Yeah, you're not frightened, right? So why should you be frightened now? Because you have taken on a profession that comes with that. You need to be strategic, but don't be frightened. The starting point. Also, you must be professional, because in as much as you want a free press, you also want a responsible press. So you have your code, Cherno Jalo code on ethics. Make sure that when you write stories, don't write just sensational stories, or don't write stories that really are spiteful or that could damage people's reputation. Really, I think our press could, as much as I defend the press, I think the press can do better in being more professional and less reckless. That doesn't give the state the right to do what it's doing. Those are two separate things. I think we also have to look inward and clean our house. Clean your house, sorry. Right? Clean your house. You need to be more responsible. When I look at the headlines, it breaks my heart. Even today, if you look at the headlines, you think of all the important things in the country. Today, look at the headline. I saw Pablo Jabe visiting his car. I'm sorry. But that's the headline on, I think, one of the papers today. You have every important thing in this country, and you have Pablo Jabe is inspecting his car as a headline. Then the other thing would be maybe Bob Keita something. That's Gambia. I'm just giving an example with respect to Pablo and Bob Keita. There's nothing to do with them. But just to tell you also, we need to be more serious as a press, because you have a very important job to do. And it's actually a calling, it's not a job. That's why it's called the fourth estate.
It's a service.
Yes. So if you want to really make money and business, don't be a journalist. You're in the wrong profession. Because journalists are typically poor. Even in England and America, they're not rich people. That's a fact. So don't be courageous and be responsible and be professional. If you're courageous, responsible, professional, as far as the government's posture is, I mean, we've seen the trajectory. It's rather unfortunate. It's well documented. You have gone through worst times. A regime that had absolute control of power in every sense of the word. Today, even if your government takes you to court, you have an independent judiciary. I can say that, stand that as a lawyer and former president, say that we have an independent judiciary. The government cannot control what the court will do. They can prosecute you, but they cannot control and tell any judge what to do. And I don't think they've been trying to do that either. I'm just being fair to them. So we test the laws. We go to court, we fight the case and throw out the cases. But also to the government, why make us go through that in the first place? Why charge people every day they report to the police station? They come in the morning, stay till afternoon. They cannot walk because that's what happens.
Yeah.
Those are the bail conditions they get typically. They call you to the police station. You go in the morning, you sit till afternoon, you go home. That's not fair. That's an abuse of power, in my opinion. This is what they used to do in the Jammeh era. They call you to the NIA, you sit, and then after they go home. Sit. Sometimes you don't know whether you'll spend the night. So this is incorrect. So we also have to tell the government that IGP is not correct. You have bail. The reason you have bail is that they don't flee when you need them court. They come. They don't have to come every day. You've done your investigations. Charge them. That's it. You don't need to disturb them. This is what happens. We have many instances where we are going to police. It's like you forget your lawyer cap. You start negotiating. Forget the law. Nahate wata no balko no family. Come on, man. Passing for you want the digger. Bindal President Ganyanko. Why? We don't have a king. We respect his office. We voted for him. People voted for him. We respect him. As long as he's president, we give him all the respect due. But if you're a leader, people sometimes will offend you. But it doesn't mean that they have to come and beg you. Reminds me of one of the roles one of the jobs that lawyers to do in the background sometimes is, I would say, writing love letters to Jami, nice letters to Jami on behalf of people. You start by saying, first getting his name, Dr. Al-Haji Babali, blah, 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 your esteem, blah, 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 blah. Butter him nicely to the end and say, please, oh, can you allow this guy to go? I remember when Lang Tombong was, the sweet letter said, tell me the route. We've gone past that. So the authorities should not be using this, the powers that they are using, those laws. When Bar Tambidu was Attorney General, he stood on a platform as means of justice and responded to the government and said that the government would not use those laws. Dig it out, you're the press. It was said. They are in the books, we'll change it, but we will not use them. Why are we still using them? Why is it that those laws are still in the criminal offences bill that is in Parliament, despite the fact that GPU, the bar, other stakeholders have submitted position papers to the Constitutional Affairs and Human Rights Committee, telling them that these laws have no place in democracy. These laws, some of them have been decided as undemocratic by the ECOWAS Court and jurisprudence from the African Court in Arusha and all over the place. Yet, they want to maintain these laws. That is not acceptable. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we will allow you to go.
I think I'll go.
Definitely. Because,
Thank you so much.
yeah, so inspirational. So probably we would want you to join the group photo. So a quick one, please. We should have a group photo and a break, probably 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. Yeah, we have to.
Group photo.
Yeah, group photo and come back.
Yeah, but they said there is a coffee break.
We can do the coffee.
Yeah, what you do, you just grab it and we come back.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go. Group photo, grab a coffee, and we come. Yeah. All right.